there's a cost of living crisis and inflation is, around 5%, which it isn't, because it just depends on how they want to measure the inflation. It wasn't that long ago I'd pay $7 for a schooner of beer. Now that's 11. That was only like a few years ago. So it's out of control. I mean, you go to Coles or Woolies and you come back with one of their bags and it's cost you $120 and you've only got like 10 things in there. The Sydney medium house price since Bitcoin started. In 2011, the medium house price in Sydney was $570,000. The price of Bitcoin was $4.15. The amount of Bitcoin you needed to buy that house would have been $137,000 or something. Now, this year it's probably about 1.6 million for average house in Sydney. And the amount of Bitcoin you need is 11. It goes the other way, and people can't get their head around that. And mind you, the cumulative inflation went from 3.3% up to this year 47.7%, and the dollar debased from 97 cents down to 68 cents. I think the best way to think of it is everyone's in the same system, which is this fractional reserve banking system that we're all in, and a minute amount of people up the top taking your money and making you work your ass off, taking taxes on just about everything you earn, buy. So you've got to get out of that system. Money's being debased, you've got inflation, you're going backwards.
Welcome back to G'day Bitcoin, ladies and gentlemen. Today we've got a very special guest. We have Cameron, the Bitcoin construction worker, join us today. We'll dive into his amazing backstory, but what I found really interesting is Cameron started the first internet cafe here in Australia back in '96, has done 8 different tech startups. We're going to dive into Bloxcribe and 30 years of background within tech. We are going to dive into geopolitics as well as the macro take on Bitcoin. But before all that, Cameron, how are you today?
Yeah, good, Sean. It's great to be on here. Thanks for having me.
Real pleasure. Before we went live, said you're getting a little bit of weather, and this is totally off topic, but it's so funny. I saw a post on X maybe like 2 weeks ago, and the media's like, it's going to be the hottest winter on record. And then a couple of days ago, they're like, we're in for the coldest winter on record and stuff, and it's all global warming. What's your take? Maybe not so much on the post, but just on the messaging from mainstream media in regards to anything in this country.
I stopped watching mainstream media probably 2019, 2020, obviously.
Yeah.
I've been in towns like Berry. I don't know if you know Berry, but I was in town there last summer, and it had to be 38 degrees. It was so hot. And when I looked up the bomb app, it said it was 26. So it's like, it's ridiculous. I mean, the last couple of days they said there's going to be a cyclone bomb or rain bomb, a cyclone bomb. I don't know, but it really wasn't that bad. I think it got up to probably maybe 30 knot gusts, and there's a bit of rain, but not really heavy. It's just continuous sort of rain. It wasn't as bad as they made out anyway.
Yeah, and that's sort of my takeaway as well. And the reason I led with that, Cameron, is because here in Australia, so many people look at Bitcoin like it's just punching through 109,000 US dollars. I think it's about $165,000 Australian. And they listen to the media, and what you were saying before we hit record was all they hear from the media is it's too volatile, and they're not interested in paying any attention to this volatile magic internet money. What would you say to the young entrepreneur, the young Aussie, someone that's maybe working a 9 to 5, their dollars aren't going as far, and they realize that the money's broken, but they don't know what to do to be able to get ahead? Before we dive into all the tech side of things, why should people, in your opinion, be paying attention to Bitcoin as money, even though what the media is saying, Bitcoin's super volatile, it's extremely volatile. They're not wrong on that, but I think there's a bit more to the story.
Yeah, what I tell people, I only just realised this in the last few years, actually, just by getting away from mainstream media and actually doing my own research, listening to, certain people, which I listen to, like, Jeff Booth and Lynn Olden and, George Gammon and Mark Mosley, you probably know a lot of these people too, but you just wake up to the whole thing. And once you learn about fractional reserve banking, dollar debasement, true inflation, you put it all together and you realise that you're probably going backwards at about a rate of, I don't know, it's probably around 12%. So you're
Yeah.
losing 12% of your money every year, but no one knows that. It's like an ice cube melting. So once you realise that, you start going, oh shit, like, what am I doing? Like, you can make 11% on the, on the stock exchange probably, and you're doing average, but you're losing that. So you're really just keeping your head above water. So if you're not lucky enough to be able to own stocks or anything, and you're just living on a paycheck situation, which is a lot of people, you're going backwards really rapidly. And the mainstream media, going back to them, they don't tell you this side of any of that. They just, they say, oh, there's a cost of living crisis and inflation is, around 5%, which it isn't, because it just depends on how they want to measure the inflation, not on the things that we normally buy. And if they did, it'd probably be more like 10 or 11%. I mean, it wasn't that long ago I'd pay $7 for a schooner of beer. Now that's 11. That was
Yeah.
only like a few years ago. So it's out of control. I mean, just go to Coles or Woolies and you come back with one of their bags and it's cost you $120 and you've only got like 10 things in there. It's out of control. And I just think Bitcoin, obviously is a fantastic alternative. I know everyone measures Bitcoin in fiat system. So, you just said it's around 109,000 US. We're measuring it in the fiat system, which is actually going backwards. So we'll know when we hit the point when, it's $6,000 for a sats for a beer. That's when we'll know, when we're measuring goods and services in Bitcoin. And that's when we'll be there, I think. But it's I guess everyone values their Bitcoin in the fiat system, which is sort of, it's not right. But the original white paper was for electronic cash system. It's not really there yet. Sometimes if I go to a barbecue or something, there might be a bunch of teenagers there, and I call them over and I show them Wallet of Satoshi,
Yep.
and I show them this is Bitcoin. It's called Sats. And I said, download the app, and half of them already downloaded it by the time I tell them. And I send them all, I don't know, a few thousand sats each, which is, $5 or $10 or something. And it's so funny because they all go off. They obviously go to school. They show their friends. Then they're all downloading Wallet of Satoshi. Then I get the call a few days later from their parents saying, I need to get them onto an exchange now because they've worked it out. Now they want to buy more. Some of these kids have made 10, 20 grand in the
Let's
last
go.
less than 2 years, just because then they start buying Solana and other things. It just blows me away. But I know from my point of view, I've actually educated some young people and away they go. So it's the older people that are harder.
That's what I've found as well. Like, we've got the nephews, nieces, and stuff. Like, all the little people in our lives, super excited, love it. They know that they can't spend it either, until they hit a certain age. But they're always asking. They're like, "Oh, that's so awesome!" And they're tracking it and they're watching it and they're like, "How can I get a bit more?" But then I'll the very wealthy people in my family or friend group or something. You'll try give them a book, a podcast, whatever it is, and they're like literally one of the wealthiest people that I know, he's like, why hasn't my financial advisor told me about this? I'm like, why haven't you asked him? Like, every time we catch up over the last 5 years, I've been saying buy Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin. He's like, nah, financial advisor. Or if it was real money, or if it was a real investment, my financial advisor would talk about it. And just like last time I saw him, I'm like, how's your financial advisor? He's like, yeah, I did well. It was like 6% returns or something. And I just fucking laughed. I'm like, that's not even outpacing inflation, man. Like, your financial advisor has really given you shit advice. Like, please read this book. And I sent it to him, the big print.
Yeah.
Whether he's read it or not, but I've found this disconnect between it. Why do you reckon that is? Like, I grew up with tech. You're obviously like deep into the tech world with the 8 tech startups and stuff and the internet cafe. So like, obviously it came fairly natural to you, but for people that are providing value, whether they're a surgeon, a doctor, or a lawyer, research, whatever it is, why are those people struggling, you reckon, to grok it, to understand?
Probably because their journey from being a kid has been study hard, work hard, go to uni, get your degree. Probably going through uni doesn't do you much good either in that regard. And then they're a professional. They've got a different mindset. They've just buy the house, get the mortgage. They're just following that rule book in that system that's obviously busted. And you know, what does Jeff Booth say? He says you have regulation to protect your money on top of a system designed to steal your money. And I think, that's a great way of putting it. So there's all these regulations that they bring in, and they keep steering everyone around in one direction or another. But at the end of the day, they're just trying to take your money and disguise it as other things. That whether it's inflation, the US dollar's down 11% just this year. It's been debased that much.
Yeah, like even the Aussie dollar in the last just over five years, it's been debased 57% in them 3 money supply. It's it's crazy. It's
And
11% a year as well.
if you measure things in Bitcoin, it's a different world. Like the US stock market is over the last 5 years is down 85% against Bitcoin. 85%.
Wow.
I did a little spreadsheet. I'll just pull it up because it's quite amazing. It's the Sydney median house price for since Bitcoin started. In 2011, the median house price in Sydney was $570,000, and the price of Bitcoin was $4.15, I think, at that time. And the amount of Bitcoin you needed to buy that house would have been 137,000 or something. Now, this year, it's probably about 1.6 million for average house in Sydney. And the amount of Bitcoin you need is 11. So
wow.
It goes the other way, and people can't get their head around that. And mind you, the cumulative inflation went from 3.3% up to this year 47.7%, and the dollar debased from 97 cents down to 68 cents in that time. So it's once you see all of that, you go, oh my God, and that's what freaks you out. And then if you can get into the Bitcoin side of the equation, it's a completely different world.
Yeah, but I guess like these people that we're trying to talk to at the moment, they may come back and be like, yeah, but Bitcoin's still too volatile. Like, what would you say to that? Like, we've just said everything like that, the dollar's going down, but Bitcoin's too volatile and they can't stomach it.
If you just show them a chart from 2011 to today, it just goes up and up and up like the stock market. Like, I know that there's average, but I tell people, because now I have about 2 or 3 people every week email me or call me and say, I need to get Bitcoin. And these are people that laughed at me a few years ago, but now they want to buy it. And I have an email template that I send them, which walks them through how to register, do the KYC, download Trust Wallet, just an entry level way of getting some Bitcoin, telling them what documentation they need. And that happens 2 or 3 times every week now, and it's picking up a lot. So people are coming around, and it's I don't know. That's why I think we're getting to a point where people are just going to explode, and there'll be panic.
Yeah,
I need to do this fast.
I think so, and I wonder if that's why, like Commonwealth Bank, for example, limits people to $10,000 per month into Bitcoin or crypto. They lump it all in one, and I wonder if they're starting to see that, or like this unrealized capital gains tax. A lot of people with self-managed supers hold Bitcoin within that self-managed super. It just seems like the controllers, the evil elite, whatever, the parasitic class, trying to put all these walls up to keep everyone inside the panopticon. Do you see it like that? Like by the time everyone wakes up and they're ready, like that's slowly then suddenly phase, maybe it's too late? Or do you still reckon there's a bit of time for people to get into Bitcoin? Or are we just going to get to a moment where they're like, no, we've gone full communism, total wealth control. We're not going to let you get outside the system?
Oh, I think there's time, yeah. I mean, even you and I are early. The Bitcoin's still very early from where it's going to get to. So I think people have time. The banks, I I've got a bank account with probably 5 or 6 different banks, so I can sort of, one of them is CommBank. But when we went to register Bloxcribe as a company, we wanted to put 100 grand in it, open a business banking account, right? That's all we were doing. We got rejected from CommBank, rejected from NAB, rejected from Westpac. Eventually, ANZ opened the account for us because we had the word block in the company name. It was unbelievable. It was such an experience to go through. But I think the banks, like normal, when there's something new in tech, they're so slow that they probably go to the government or the regulators and say, listen, you need to slow this down because we're not ready. And it's going to take us 3 or 4 years to get into the position to be able to custody this stuff. And I think that's what they'll do first. So when it explodes and everyone needs Bitcoin, they'll be getting it through CommBank, right? And CommBank will say, we'll look after it, we'll hold it for you. That's what will happen. And which is probably not a good idea, but they need to be, they know it's coming, but they need to be. Yep. And then what will happen to the tech startups like us is they'll turn around and say, oh, you haven't got a banking license, you don't have the right regulations, you can't custody, you know what I mean? So this is what they do. And, this is why companies are moving offshore. They're going to the Cayman Islands or they're going wherever. Dubai, that's obviously a big one. Singapore in some respects.
And I got cut off. I think you're explaining that a lot of people are moving, or a lot of tech companies are moving due to the regulations.
Oh, yeah. Well, especially in the Web3 space, they're leaving because the regulations, because ASIC can't really make their mind up. I think ASIC's a good example of someone that sort of listens to the big end of town and not the small end. And as I was saying, the big end of town need to stall the small end of town, if you like. So a lot of the companies are just up and heading to Singapore, Dubai, even the Cayman Islands. They're just getting out. Obviously, there's big tax reasons for that as well. But all the innovation and, the tax money, all that disappears from Australia. So that's not good.
Yeah, I completely agree. Probably want to dive into the tax, but I do want to get into Bloxcribe. It's something like a collaborative custody wallet protecting all digital assets. Definitely on the show, I'm a strong advocate of Bitcoin and self-custody, holding it yourself. But I'd be interested to hear about it. I'm willing to have an open mind. But before we get into that, like starting 8 different tech startups, what I was saying before we went live, Cameron, is I guess one of the missions of the show is to allow people to give themselves permission to get as much Bitcoin as possible. I think the only way, as Bitcoin's price goes up higher and higher forever and ever, like it's going up forever, Laura, people are going to have to provide greater value to the world to be compensated either in Bitcoin or fiat. And I think building out tech projects or doing a startup, or like I really think to gain massive leverage in this world, it needs to be online. You need to be using AI day to day. At least that's what I've done over the last year. I'd just like to get some of the lessons, the learnings, what those 8 tech startups were, what they're focused on, and how you think about that, like building something of value to be able to get compensated, to be able to store your time and energy in something that's not going to get debased. If you've still got your Bitcoin on an exchange or you're looking to take your Bitcoin security to the next level, I've partnered with the Bitcoin Way. They offer live help for setting up cold storage, running your own node, keeping your Bitcoin private, planning for the future, using multi-sig, and so much more. They never touch your keys. They will not touch your coins. Instead, they'll show you how to buy and keep them safe. If you want to make your Bitcoin setup safer, you can book a free 30-minute call and have a chat with them. Safe Dina Moose, the author of the Bitcoin Standard, Natalie Brunel, Preston Pish, and so many more recommend the professional IT cybersecurity team. Couple of outstanding things here. You can see they've been featured in Forbes, Bitcoin Magazine, Safety, Bitcoin Prague, Zero Hedge, Simply Bitcoin, the Bitcoin Safety, the Bitcoin Standard podcast with Safety and Moose, Bitcoin News, obviously G'day Bitcoin for a long time. They're the world experts in helping people become self-sovereign. It's not just about protecting your Bitcoin stash. Yes, they will help you do that in a very easy to understand step-by-step process. But from there, they can help you secure your data. They are your personal cybersecurity IT experts. And then step number 3 is getting a second passport, a Plan B residency. The team, very cheap, very affordable for people that are looking to take their sovereignty to the next level. You can find out more about their services. When you first log in to their website as well, they have got a free 3-minute quiz to allow you to check if you are doing your cybersecurity, your setup correctly. I urge everyone to jump onto the bitcoinway.com. I have put a link into the description for everyone. Could not recommend them enough. I've used them personally before I ever partnered with them for the channel, friends and family. They asked me to help them out. I'm like, go to the world experts. That is the Bitcoin Way. So reach out to the Bitcoin Way today.
And when we opened, we had 12 computers down there. We had a 64K ISDN router. And we had queues. The queue was going down outside the store and down the footpath for about 20 or 30 people in there at any given time. And we thought, oh, this is unreal. And then over time, I noticed a lot of Qantas staff coming in. And I said, what are you guys doing? And they said, oh, we're checking our rosters because it's on the internet, but we don't have internet at home. So I thought, oh, that's interesting. And then we ended up building websites for Triple M radio station, Toyota. These companies were coming to us and wanting to build websites. So we got into that, and that was wonderful. And then, the internet was a boom thing. And then I realized that what's going to happen next is mobile. This is going to be on mobile phones. And we started building apps on the old feature phones. And then I sort of transitioned around to building apps, and it was all mobile stuff. So, along the way, we had tech startups that were doing text message apps and things. And then it turned in, like you'd send a code in and it'd send you a link back and all that sort of stuff. Then, building apps for different companies. And then, 2012, downloading an app now is like loading a web page. It's that quick. People just download it and use it and then delete it. So it's come a long way. And I think, so there's the internet, there's mobile, then the blockchain came along, and that's what we're building on now. Obviously, Web3 is very exciting. It's going to be around, and I think that the Bitcoin network is phenomenal, and there's a lot of people involved in that ecosystem, but we need people in there building things for it, and that's why we're building Bloxcribe now. Your internet, your Bitcoin journey is find out about it. How do I get it? You end up on a centralized exchange. You do your KYC, you get your Bitcoin, you need to put it somewhere because most people are comfortable having it on the exchange because everything's worked. I've got it, it's under my name. But then you learn about, self-custody, not your keys, not your coins. And then people start getting, Trezors and whatever, hardware wallets, and working that one out. Then you got your seed phrase. And then I thought, that's fantastic, but what happens if I get hit by a bus? Because I've got all of this stuff. No one else, none of my kids, my wife, no one knows. Even if they did have the seed phrase, they'd have no idea how to do it. So we looked into it, and then that's why we built Bloxcribe, which is a collaborative custody wallet. So it has multiple keys, usually 2 or 3 keys. So, your wife might have a key, you have a key, your lawyer might have a key, or someone. Even Bloxcribe can hold the key because one key doesn't do anything, but some people don't trust anyone, so that's the way they do it. And if you included all Web 2 and Web 3 assets, so all your logins, passwords, PIN codes, all on the Web 2 side as digital assets, and then obviously your Bitcoin and crypto and whatever else you have on the Web 3 side, NFTs, whatever it might be. So that's all held in a vault. Multiple keys. If someone comes and puts a gun to your head, which will probably be common down the track, to get your crypto or your Bitcoin, then you can say you can have my key, but it's not going to do you any good unless you've got the other one. So yeah, that's what we're building, and it's mainly aimed at investors and financial advisors in that market because they have a lot of customers with a lot of value, and there's no solution for it really.
like you're saying, if like somebody's holding a single sig key, or just their key by themselves, they lose it. Nobody's going to be able to find it. How's that changed? Like having a potential collaborative custody model, like the other person, holding the other key still may not know what to do. So, like, how's that any different, or having just like a standard multi-sig setup?
Well, because we have artifacts as well, so they're documents or any document you want, which is held in an artifact in the Web3 and the vault as well. So we can have full-on instructions on how everything works. This gives you access to bank accounts, investment accounts, betting accounts, whatever it may be, where there's money held. I don't know if you know, but if you die in Australia within 30 days, the government freezes all your bank accounts and everything till the probate process starts. And the reason they do that is because they want to see if they're owed any money before anyone else gets any. So, you know, your vault's accessible 24/7, as you know, in the Web3 space. So people can go in and sort things out. They can get the instructions, work out where all the value is, log into accounts, move it around. In California, you've got to get a court injunction to even get a Facebook credentials, which is going to cost you thousands of dollars just to do that. So I just think, custody, once you get into the Web3 and the crypto world, you'll come to a point where custody becomes a big issue. And if you go to the trade shows, you'll notice that it's always a big issue. There's a lot of people talking about it. People just don't think about it, especially, even just in the Web2 world, when someone passes away, it's really difficult to even access their email just to find things out. It's a nightmare. So, we just thought we'll build and we use MPC TSS protocol, which is multi-party computation. So it's different than multi-sig. You can lose one of the keys and regenerate it if you want. So it's quite user-friendly. It's to get the user interface right, it's difficult because you've got to think like the average person to be able to make it very easy for them to access it.
Yep. And like just having a look at your website, bloxcribe.io, there's a picture of an iPhone. How do people go about like creating the vault or the collaborative custody setup? Is it all online, and then would that be considered a hot wallet?
Yeah, no, it's just done through the app. The vault's set up. The private key is never revealed to anyone, not even us. So that's how MPC works. So there are three keys. You invite, I might invite you and someone else, and you'll get a notification. You'll download the app, and then you've got your key as well, which is useless to anyone on its own. But we use that where AI comes into the app. We use agents, AI agents, if you like. So if I do a transaction, there's two wallets in the app. There's a trading wallet, and then there's the vault wallet. So you might have a bunch of assets in Bitcoin and all of that stuff in the vault, but you've got a trading one as well, because you might want to trade. You might want to buy and sell or move Bitcoin around on a daily basis. So you'd use that wallet, and then when you want to store it, you move it to the other vault. And that other wallet's only just you only need to execute the transaction yourself with us, and we can move it for you. So we try and make it as user friendly as possible. But I think I remember going through the whole self custody thing and thinking this is really good. But if something happens to me, that my family's going to be, they're going to be up shit creek because they just will have no idea how to work all of this out.
Yeah, it's
that was the main driver for it.
Interesting. Like say like you and I, we set this up and we had a third party as well, or just a traditional multi-sig, say like me, you and someone else. Like we're all going to have to be together anyway to be able to set up that multi-sig. And then instructions can be given and like used. Would that be the same thing with this? Like you're all in a room together, you set it up. I'm guessing it's something like Aqua Wallet, where you can say like back up and you can see your seed, or is it just all on the phone and then nobody sees it? Like even the person setting it up.
That's why multi-sig. This is why it's better than multi-sig. Multi-sig's the keys on chain, right?
Yeah.
So if you're in a multi-sig situation and you lose your key, we have to regenerate all three keys again
Yeah.
to actually get you back again. So with MPC, you don't. You can just regenerate your key, and we don't, because the private key is never revealed. We don't have to be in the same room to set it up. I could just send you your link, however I want. I could email it to you. I could text it. But the way we do it is just you download the app and then you're attached to the vault.
Yeah.
So
And
it's
then like how do I see my key though if like I want to write it down somewhere in case my phone or whatever breaks?
you can see it. You can see it, and you can do whatever you like with it. But it's if someone else gets it, it's useless.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I'm just trying to think it's not something that I've really looked into, collaborative custody, and then you're doing it a different way. So I'm open to learn. It's not probably the path that I'd go down personally because I want full control. I think that's the revolution. But you're saying businesses could really use that. And like if you have a board of directors or something and it's like 5 out of 7 or something, that could be really easy and fairly straightforward for them to be able to have Bitcoin as a treasury reserve asset or something. Is that sort of like the key target audience and like the best use case, or how else do you see it like fitting into real world?
Well, we're setting up, because of what we're doing, and custody is the main thing at the moment. We're also supporting the USDT stablecoin for that reason, for businesses to be able to move money quickly and cheaply, cross border. So that'll be in there as well. But yeah, you can have 5 or 7 keys or 3 or 4 keys, whatever the setup you want to set up. So it will be available for individuals to use if they want to, but we've set up a corporate authorised representative under an AFSL, Australian Financial Services Licence. So we've set that up anyway, just to sort of protect us, and also just so people know that that's how we're operating the business. It's not just some startup and that costs money and takes a while to set up. So we're going to make sure that's in place. Again, board of directors, even if they don't have any Web3 Bitcoin reserve, treasury reserve, or whatever, their secure documentation, everything can sit in the vault as well, and they can have access to it. Usually, those companies operate on a board meeting or some sort of, they have a process of accessing this stuff, so that sometimes takes a few days anyway. So, yeah, it's aimed at that, and financial advisors for their clients, sort of that area, investors. There's one guy he passed away, and his wife gave my mate, he said he's got a TAB betting app. Can you go and see what's in that? And he finally got into the app to find out, and he had $200,000 sitting in there. So you just don't know what people. Most guys' betting apps, probably no one knows they've even got them. So
Yeah.
Self custody is great until you get hit by a bus. That's what I always say.
Yeah, or you can have succession plans and you can go about in different ways, but that is like one very strong point is when people are setting up single sig self custody, you need to have like succession planning in place, and you need somebody to know what to do in the event of your death. Because like you're saying, like could walk outside or on the way to the gym get hit by a car or something, and it's game over. That Bitcoin's donated to the blockchain, which is great for everyone else, but not really for the family that's left behind dealing with the heartache and heartbreak that goes along with those situations.
I was going to say, my wife, her parents passed away over the past few years, and her dad had shares in I think AMP and QBE or something, and they were through a broker. And even though she had, she was the executor of the will, and she had all the paperwork and everything she needed, it took her 11 months to access those shares. And they wouldn't accept email documents signed. They had to go by snail mail through the post, and it's just such a process. And that was just that part. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, the worst part is like that process is happening after like a tragic life event, and there's already this stress and pressure and like overwhelm. Their lives just been ripped away from him, and it makes it harder. I think that's it's insane. Um, Switching gears a little bit, something else that you mentioned, which I didn't get to really look into, but was cloudventures.net. I guess, like, what is it? I'm interested to learn, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, Cloud Ventures is quite an old company. We've had that for quite some time. It's a venture studio. That's what it's mainly done over the past few years. So whether it's us or other people have ideas for a tech startup or some sort of technology they want to build, we sort of we sort of birth it out of Cloud Ventures initially, and then Cloud Ventures will fund it in its very early stages to get it up and running and see if there's a product market fit. And then it goes off and sets itself up as a company. So it's a venture studio is what it is. But now what we've done is we've set it up as a Bitcoin treasury reserve as a private company. I'm not sure how many people have done that, but just going on, the as well as I do, the average return for Bitcoin is like 30-40%, maybe more each year. So it's funnily enough, we put money into Bloxcribe, $100,000 into Bloxcribe, and it's still got that. It's still got some of that money because we put it in a Bitcoin trust instead of the bank. So it just keeps accumulating money and it keeps funding itself. So we thought, let's do that under a private company for Cloud Ventures. So people that, like your mate that's a high net worth guy that doesn't understand Bitcoin, he might go, well, my financial advisor I can buy shares, if you like, or a C note into Cloud Ventures and get exposure to Bitcoin without actually doing it directly. And it pays dividends and the whole lot. It's very much like the way Strategy 8 or MicroStrategy's done it, and a few other public companies around the world. So that's why we've set it up. It's early days, but that's pretty much what Cloud Ventures is doing.
Yeah. Just for my own curiosity, because we've also got Bitcoin on the company balance sheet. What's the difference between like doing that excess cash flow, a little bit of profit, instead of paying a dividend, we're just keeping it as a Bitcoin treasury reserve? Personally, is that any different to like being called a Bitcoin treasury company, or is it like one and the same?
No, we as a private company in Australia, you can have 50 shareholders, up to 50 shareholders. So there's already 3 of us, so we'll probably just only ever have 47 other shareholders in that private company. Otherwise, you've got to go public or change the whole constitution and everything. But you should change the constitution anyway around, and you've got to do all of that work to say that this is what you're doing, setting up a Bitcoin treasury, and this is how we operate. And again, we fall under the CAR arrangement on the AFSL to make sure that we're compliant. But I think a lot of people are going to start doing that. A lot of companies will start putting it definitely on their balance sheet.
Yeah. Somebody approached me a week ago, and shout out channel subscriber, but on X they messaged me and said they tagged me with a Australian dollar stablecoin project that's building out, and I'm like, well, I'm Bitcoin only, but like, why? Like, why would you do this? If I was going to hold any stable coin, it'd be the US dollar over the Australian dollar. And I guess the point that I'm getting at is, like, any company operating in Australia or anywhere on a fiat standard, I think it's financial suicide and negligence if they're not now adding Bitcoin, or if they don't get Bitcoin, like even gold, I guess, to a lesser extent. But if companies moving forward, I don't think they're achieving their financial fiduciary responsibilities unless they like take a serious look at Bitcoin. And I think that's like exactly what happened with Microsoft as well. I think they've done their shareholders a huge disservice.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, it's the stablecoin is in the fiat system, right? So it's not even in the Web3. But what it does do, it uses blockchain, and you can transfer money very quickly, very cheaply, very fast, which is, the promise of Web3. But it is fiat at the end of the day. So it is melting. It's like a melting block of ice, really, with
Yeah.
debasement and everything that goes on with it. But it's mainly just moving money. I mean, there's a lot of people in the world that need to move money cross border each week. It's a lot of I know a lot of families that the father or someone might work in a different country, and that's how they send their money back. And if you can do it for a few cents rather than a few dollars, it's a bonus. So also, that you could be a Colombian cab driver, right? Now you can have US dollars,
Yeah.
hold US dollars in your wallet rather than whatever the currency they're giving you. So that's
Yeah.
the big. And then when you think about in the US, all of that money that for Tether, for example, all of that money, 80% of it, I think, goes into US treasuries because no one else is buying the treasuries. Everyone else
Yeah.
is selling them. So this is why they're trying to get this stablecoin bill over the line, because they have to. So there's a
Yeah.
whole other world going on with stablecoins, but it's not. It's in the fiat system, yeah, but it's still using the technology.
Yep. But I guess like the point I'm making is more like shitting on the Aussie dollar, because the Aussie dollar is just so shit. Fiat dollars in general are bad, but I can see short term the use case, or understand the use case for like a US dollar stable coin. People don't understand Bitcoin to the extent. That's fine. That's why I like Aqua. People can switch between them. They can accept both, and it looks like that's what you guys are doing as well. But put the USD stablecoin aside, do you see any product market fit for like an Australian stablecoin or a New Zealand stablecoin, or like any other country?
Oh, they'll probably get some traction, but it probably won't be, you know, become viable. Maybe it will. We don't really know, but I'm pretty sure there'll be a use case for some companies probably to use it, and it might be enough. I don't know, but I know what you're saying. You want dollars, you want US dollars, um, even though it's lost. It's the US dollar's lost 11% already this year in its value. So, obviously Trump's trying to devalue it down because he needs to. But I don't know if a New Zealand or Australian one. I know it's a listed company out of Melbourne. Can't remember the name of that's launched the Australian one, which was about a year and a half ago. I think it's been a while ago, but I know ANZ Bank's worked on one. But Walmart will have a stable coin. American Airlines will have a stable coin. Commonwealth Bank
Yeah.
will have a stable coin. They'll all have stable coins.
Yeah. And they'll be used to surveil everyone with CBDCs. But sorry, we're getting a little bit off topic. I sort of want to bring it back. Like in regards to building these, actually, we'll come to this question in a sec, but in regards to cloud ventures, say somebody's got like an amazing startup idea. What's the process of like approaching you for funding and a partnership or whatever? How's that go about? Do they need to have like proof of concept? Do they need to have something that's already working? They're just looking to be able to scale it, take it to the next level, maybe get a little bit of strategic advice and help with that? Or how would like cloud ventures work with someone in that capacity?
Oh, we go from the idea stage. If someone's got an idea, that's fine. We quickly, there's so many people come to us and go, I've got this idea for this app, a mobile app that does this and this and this. And I said, well, there's probably about 30 of them that does that.
Yeah.
And they go, oh, really? So it's a lot of research at the beginning. If we don't understand it, we research it, but you're probably 90% of them get knocked on the head because they're out there. So a lot of people think that this is a new idea, but it's not. So if it sounds good and it sounds like there might be a market for it, we'll explore it further. And then we have access to a lot of developers and designers and things. We can build prototypes pretty quick. So we might build them a prototype and say, there you go, go and find out who would buy this or who would buy the service. And they may not come back, or they do and they say, yeah. So it's really early stuff. I mean, it's usually you can get investment money, overseas a lot quicker, a lot easier than you can in Australia. Australians VCs want to see traction, they want to see income, they want run rate, before they'll put their money in, that's great, but do you need the money then? Having investors in your startup, I know it makes a good news story. We just raised $5 million, blah, 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 but you're actually giving away part of your company, So if you do that too often, you might be CEO, founder of a company, and you own 10% of it. So it's a matter of getting as far along as you can before you raise any money. So it's sort of venture studio is something that it might take a little bit more time, but it's really just breaking down those initial barriers that people run into quickly.
Yeah, I think that's a real good point you raised, Cameron. Is like, I think with anyone building any business, if you're starting or you're down your track, 100% you want to retain as much control or as close to 100% as possible. But like, if you can, like, at least hold 51%, you want to have the final vote. When people are approaching like Cloud Ventures or similar venture studios, are you taking equity or just a return on investment? If it's to pay off, they like almost like a loan, or how's that sort of structure set up?
Well, it depends. It varies, I guess. Some people might be able to put their own money in. So it'd be, if we're doing, depending on how much work we're doing, if they just come with an idea and we do most of the building and stuff, we'll probably take a larger part of it. But I guess the advantage is it gets into the market and it gets launched and it can get to a seed stage. Like Bloxcribe, got $100,000 put into it once it was released and set up as a company and a bank account and everything, which obviously went into the Bitcoin treasury, and it's managed to survive almost 2 years now. So it all depends. It's pretty flexible.
Yeah. No, cool. Interesting. I find that fascinating, and it's like, we're lucky enough to keep 100% control of our company, but if someone's got an amazing, beautiful idea and willing to give up a little bit of that control to see it actually hit the market and come into real life, ventures, whether it's Cloud Ventures or another VC firm, that is a way to be able to go about that. And it's just like on the thread that we were saying earlier, is Bitcoin's getting pretty bloody expensive. But there's like an abundance of fiat dollars out there. They just make more and more and more of it. Nearly 60% more in the last 5 years here in Australia. With these other tech startups and stuff, what are some of the, maybe like the trials that you faced that felt like it was all going to fall apart in that moment, but you pushed through, and then you're like, oh, that was like the greatest learning or the greatest growth, and we wouldn't be where we are today without going through like the real pain? Do you have any like battle stories that you're willing to share that might be like a couple of insightful business lessons for people?
I don't know. There's a lot of them every day. You're wearing so many hats, I
That's
suppose.
business.
You're marketing, you're doing the PR, looking after the tech side, the finance side, everything. So it's a bit of each day you're just jumping from one thing to another, and that gets a bit hectic. I don't know. I think around fundraising is probably, because a lot of people will spend a lot of time fundraising, right? You're fine tuning your deck, you're fine tuning your pitch, you're trying to contact VCs to raise money. This is a full time job in itself. So meanwhile, you're trying to build a product. So not having staff to help you do that's really difficult. And even if you do, you've got to pay them a lot of money. There's superannuation and there's all sorts of other shit you've got to pay them. People are really expensive. So you
Yeah.
try and avoid that. AI makes a world of difference. I think I mentioned that in the Bloxcribe pitch deck, one of the team members is called Jess, and Jess is the AI agent that we use. She's been with the company since the beginning, and she remembers everything. So if we need to do whatever documentation, we give her the right prompt, she produces it, fine tunes it, then we polish it off, and it's ready to go. We pay someone 80 grand a year to do what she does, and it costs us $30 a month. So little things like that. I guess going back to raising money and valuations and things, just trying to, as you said, you don't want to lose too much control of your company. And I think if you're going to get investors, you need to get strategic ones. A lot of people just go, anyone with money will do, but because you've got this idea what you're going to do with the money and make the company really big, but it doesn't often work that way. So I think you need the best investor you can get is probably the company that's going to buy you out usually. So bigger companies can't move that quickly. So they see the tech you're building and they go, we need that technology. Let's put a couple of $1 million into it. So to hurry them along, and then we'll just acquire it. So that's because a big company like a bank or something, for them to build some of this tech stuff, it could take them 3 years, and they've got to get a business case, and then they've got to go through all these stakeholders internally. It just takes forever to build a product. So a lot of them see a tech startup, fund it, get it going. They build really quick, get it to market really fast, and then they just acquire it and they own it then. So that's the best way, I think, because that way you've only taken one round of investment and you've got an exit in a couple of years. That tends to be what happens.
I think that's a life hack for the right person starting, but definitely having a strategic investor instead of just taking money and just being a little bit choosy. I guess like the reason someone won't be like that is because they're so desperate for the cash and they just need cash right now. You know, they've burned through all their savings, loans from friends, family, banks. They've got no more credit cards. If someone was in like that situation where they're sort of panicking, would you have any advice so that they maybe don't hand over too much control, but they can work strategically with someone that may not even be a strategic partner, but they just need that cash?
Well, it's hard, but I think the other option is to try and convince people to help you on the journey. It might be a tech person or some sort of business development guru or a marketing person. Maybe if they can come in and help you do the heavy lifting, but on some sort of equity basis, at least that way the team's holding the equity, not some third party that's not really doing anything, not helping you. So that's probably one way, but it's very difficult because you could be 4 years down the track, you've raised enough money, you're probably going to try and get a Series A round, and after the raise, you're going to end up with 22% of the company. It's because a lot of investors, if the founder doesn't have, or the founding team doesn't have a lot of equity in the company, they won't invest because they think that you're just going to become, you're not going to be as enthusiastic anymore, and you'll just let it go. So that happens as well.
Yeah, interesting. I like that. Let's get back to Jess, the AI agent. Like, I would not be in the position that I'm in without AI. Absolutely revolutionary, changed my life. I spend 4 hours a day minimum with AI, just back and forth. Sometimes it'll be like, "Good morning, Sean." I'm like, what the fuck is going on here, and then we'll get to the end of the day. I'm like, "Good night, thanks so much for your help, mate." And it speaks to me that I want it to speak to me like, "Hey, you're my motivational coach. When I'm really struggling, I need you to give me the information I want, clear, succinctly, but also like with a bit of positive spin or whatever, just so I don't feel like I'm talking to this code base, basically." And it's incredible. I think it's like leverage. What do you reckon with AI? Like, should people be taking it really seriously? Is it AI like just for some people? Maybe they're working on the internet, they're building an internet-based company, they're the people that should be using it. Or like, say someone that has a manual business, like a really important business, whether they're like a mechanic, a plumber, electrician, the checkout chick at the grocery store, or whatever it is. Like, should everyone be using AI at the moment, or is it just for people that are entrepreneurial, they're wanting to build something online? Like, how do you see it sort of going forward?
No, everyone should be using it. I've got people that will they'll text me something and they'll say, can you ask Jess about this? Because they don't know really how to use it, even though it's not that hard, but they know I use it. So they get my agent to do their work. So it's funny because my son's a plumber And he, most tradies come home and they're going, oh, I've got to do quotes, I've got to do invoicing, I've got to do all this stuff. And I said, mate, just use AI and automate it. And he's like, oh, that sounds like more work. But his wife set it up, and she's just can't believe, because you just automate things in your life and it just happens. So now
Yeah.
he generates. It can do the customer feedback. It can chat to people. It does his invoicing. It does just everything. Like you just feed a spreadsheet in and say, can you work this out and straighten it out for me? And it just blows you away. It blows me away every day, the amount of things it can do. So I think it should be for everyone. I've got a unit that's in a strata situation, in a strata title, and I fed in the whole legislation, which is thousands of pages. It was just a link, and I said, can you analyse this and study it, because I want to ask you questions. I think it was 20 seconds, and it said, right, what do you want to know? And just so you might get an email from a lawyer or something, and you copy the whole email thread in, put it in there, point it to the legislation and say, this is what I need to do. And it just does it all within seconds. Now, that blows you away, but then you can go in and change and go, okay, I think that's good. Or can you make it sound like it came more from me, or make it sound like it's from, it's just unbelievable. And to do some of those tasks that I've got it to do, which I do in, I don't know, 20 minutes, would take me days,
Yeah.
literally
Yeah.
2 or 3 days.
That's what I found as well. And I think, like I James Checkmate on the show 2 weeks ago. That video came out. Amazing conversation, and we were talking about AI and stuff because we both use it. And one of the things he said is never use it to like outsource your thinking. Like, don't get it to do your critical thinking. But it's like a tool. It's a leverage, and it can just allow you to work quicker and rapidly, and I guess more focused. And I think you sort of touched on that as well. Like it's a powerful tool that anyone can use to really get ahead. We've got about 2 minutes left. Cameron, I guess 2 things. Just want to hand the floor over to you. You're doing some amazing things, like working the tech startup. Let everyone know where they can find you and stuff. But before that, just a message from the heart for the audience. Someone either new into Bitcoin, or they're looking at Bitcoin, they're not a little bit sure. Like you've got a couple of moments just to share whatever's on your mind that you think can be of value for someone to take away from this video.
Yeah, I think the best way to think of it is everyone's in the same system, which is this fractional reserve banking system that we're all in, and you need to do some reading and research. It's not hard. There's people on YouTube that will explain it to you in about 20 minutes, but you've got to get out of that system. Money's being debased. You've got inflation. You're going backwards. It's inevitable that you're going backwards in the real world. And Bitcoin is this decentralized, secure network that's a different system. It's going the other way. It's deflationary. Proper free market is deflationary, and we don't. We live in an inflationary one, which means there's a minute amount of people up the top taking your money and making you work your ass off, taking taxes on just about everything you earn, buy. So have a look at it. I think it's for everyone, but it's just everyone's going to come into it a different way. And I obviously Bitcoin is there's a lot of other crypto networks out there, but Bitcoin is the one. I believe it's the only one that does proof of work still properly. And just have a look at it. AI, get yourself an AI agent. I think we pay $30 a month for ours, and that does everything we need. We obviously use it for checking code and unit testing and all sorts of other things, but just in your day-to-day life, whether it's your home life or your work life or whatever, just use it. Start using it. Start playing around with it.
I love that, and I completely just back all that. And like you brought up crypto a couple of times, and every time I hear the word crypto, I like sort of shudder a little bit because
Yeah.
I just had such a bad experience in that space. But what you said, Cameron, is like basically, and I'm paraphrasing or putting it into my own words, is Bitcoin's the money, and it's the best form of money ever to be invented. And that's the one to be paying attention to. And people will keep hearing about crypto, but I guess the way I'd explain it is it's not really money. Maybe it's technology, and some of it is technology. But like when it comes down to saving or creating or accumulating wealth, I think that comes down to saving better money, which is Bitcoin. And then your points on AI, using it, like I use it a lot for code, for automations. That's predominantly the two main things, and it's just mind blowing. But we got seals on the caravan that was sticking to the perspex, and I was pretty sure that I could just put silicon around it. But I asked AI, like, what would be the best thing for this, and it spits it out, and then it can give like specific ones for like caravan window seals, or like the proper products and like locally sourced and stuff, or like from Supercheap. You're like, this is absolutely fantastic. It's just the small little areas where it can accelerate the time to get to a solution. I think is phenomenal.
Yeah, well, having said that, my default Chrome browser search now is GPT. Like if I search in the browser, it doesn't go to Google anymore; it goes straight to GPT. Now, the other day I had a slow cooker, and it's a Ronson, right? But it was worn out on the text. I wasn't sure what 1 or 2 was, which one was low. Just had to check. Put it in ChatGPT, it comes straight up in a couple of sentences and just tells me. If I'd done that on Google, you can imagine the ads and sponsored shit that would have come up, and I would have got links and then gone to a PDF file. So I think Google's in deep shit, but that's why they're pushing AI so much, because the big companies in the 90s, Digital Equipment Corporation, DEC, Compaq, Sun Microsystems, Novell, all gone. They were so big, I thought these companies are never going anywhere. So the world turns, and it'll happen. There'll be another wave.
Yeah. Let's just hope OpenAI is a little bit better behaved than Google is. Pretty hilarious when they remove that clause, "Do no harm."
Yes, exactly.
Cameron, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show today. And for everyone out there, I'll put Cameron's links below, links to the websites that we've brought up, as well as his Twitter handle. Is there any, or X handle, living in the past, 1999. But is there anywhere else people can find you, or is that the main places to send them, Cam?
Yeah, probably because I've been around so many years. It's Cameron Wall at just about anywhere.
Cool.
So whether it's on X or Nostr or wherever, just my full name usually works.
Perfect, Cameron. I'll put all those below, easy access. If you haven't already, hit subscribe if we vibe. Do something nice for yourself today. For somebody else out there, be blessed. Peace.